Matthew 11:25-30. In this passage, the narrative records a moment where Jesus lifts his voice in thanksgiving to the Father. The text reads, "At that time Jesus answered and said, I thank you, Father, Lord of heaven and earth, that you have hidden these things from the wise and prudent and have revealed them to babes. Even so, Father, for so it seemed good in your sight." The thanksgiving of Jesus reveals a divine pattern that runs throughout the scriptures. The knowledge of the kingdom was not grasped through the intellectual pride of the religious elite, nor through the systems constructed by the scribes and Pharisees. Instead, the Father revealed the realities of his kingdom to those who approached with the humility of children. The wise and prudent in text represent the religious leadership of Israel, who trusted in their mastery of the law, their traditions, and their authority within the covenant community. Yet the mysteries concerning the fulfillment of God's promises were veiled from them. The unveiling came to the babes, those who were not relying upon institutional authority or religious status. Fishermen, tax collectors, and ordinary people were receiving the revelation of what God was accomplishing through his Son. This reversal demonstrates that the unfolding of God's redemptive plan was never dependent upon human wisdom, but upon divine revelation. Jesus continues, "All things have been delivered to me by my Father, and no one knows the Son except the Father, nor does anyone know the Father except the Son, and the one to whom the Son wills to reveal him." Here, the authority of the Son is declared. The Father has entrusted all things into his hands. The knowledge of God is not obtained through the old structures of religious mediation, but through the Son himself. The relationship between the Father and the Son is presented as unique and exclusive. Only the Son perfectly knows the Father, and only through the Son can the Father be revealed. This declaration carries profound covenantal implications. For centuries, Israel's religious life revolved around the temple, the priesthood, and the law given through Moses. Yet Jesus presents himself as the one through whom the true knowledge of God now comes. The revelation of the Father is no longer bound to the institutions of the Old Covenant order, but is found in the person of the Son. Then comes the invitation. "Come to me, all you who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest." The audience hearing these words lived under the immense weight of religious obligation. The interpretation of the law by the scribes and Pharisees had multiplied commands and burdens. What had originally been given as covenant instruction had become an oppressive system of legal requirements. The people labored under the expectation of achieving righteousness through obedience to a growing list of regulations. Jesus addresses those who were weary from this burden. The phrase "heavy laden" reflects the crushing demands placed upon the people by religious leadership. The rest being offered is not physical rest, but covenantal rest, the relief that comes from the completion of what the law anticipated, but could never accomplish. The invitation to come to him signals that the solution to this burden is not stricter adherence to the system that created the exhaustion. Instead, rest is found in the one who stands at the center of God's redemptive purpose. He continues, "Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and lowly in heart, and you will find rest for your souls." The imagery of a yoke was common in Jewish teaching. Rabbis often spoke of taking upon oneself the yoke of the law, referring to submission to the commandments and interpretations of Torah. Jesus contrasts his yoke with the one imposed by the religious authorities. His yoke is characterized by gentleness and humility. Unlike the rigid system enforced by the teachers of the law, the instruction of Jesus is rooted in his own character. The rest promised is a rest for the soul, a deep relief from the striving that defined life under the weight of the covenantal system that was reaching its climax. Finally, he concludes, "For my yoke is easy and my burden is light." This statement contrasts sharply with the burdens carried by those who lived under the existing religious framework. The system centered on continual effort, ritual observance, and striving to maintain covenant standing. Yet Jesus declares that what he brings is fundamentally different. The ease and lightness of his yoke point to the nature of what he was bringing to fulfillment. The promises, types, and shadows embedded within Israel's scriptures were reaching their completion in him. What generations had anticipated was now arriving in the person and work of the Son. Thus, Matthew 11, verse 25 to 30, stands as a declaration that the knowledge of God is revealed through the Son, and that the rest long anticipated by those weary under the weight of the old covenant order is found in him. The burdens that defined the religious life of the time were giving way to the rest secured through the fulfillment of God's redemptive plan.